Hello everyone, welcome to the Red Men TV. Welcome to play ratings after Liverpool drawn 1-1 with Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. I'm your host Ross Chandley, filling in for Chris Pajak today. These aren't my player ratings, these are your player ratings. You can get involved. It's underneath me right now, but what we'll do is we'll go through each player from the goalkeeper to the substitutes. Si will tell me when their poll is live. I will then tell you. You then have 1 minute to give me your number of who you vote for. Give me your number of the player, how you think they performed. To do that, I'll tell you the player when it's ready. Put an exclamation mark, vote, followed by the number. We will, of course, exclamation mark, vote, space in the middle, then the number, sorry. It's written beneath me. It's a bit more clearer there. So we'll get through this together, so be nice. We're going to start with Alisson Becker, of course. Si is sighing, which I don't think is a very good sign. Okay, Alisson is live. Get your votes in right now. A calm, assured performance from Alisson Becker in my mind. Wasn't as busy as you probably expect from a Manchester City side, but there were some important moments, rushing off his line, having that communication with his defence. There was one brief moment in the second half where he was about 30, 40 yards off his line, out of nowhere, just out of the screen, which required a change of boxer shorts at that point. Alisson has not worked. It's live and it's working, so get your votes in now. Sorry about that. But yeah, distribution, okay. It's always difficult when you play Manchester City because of the way that they play, how good they are. Passing out from the back was fine. He didn't look to kind of get us on the front foot a lot compared to usual. But, that's what you want. You want to be calm. You need to think about these things. The game was so intense from start to finish. I think it just required that bit of calmness, certainly from a fan's perspective. And I'm sure from the back four, the back line was the same. And as I said, apart from that, not a lot he could have done about the goal. I don't remember Manchester City having that too many shots on target at Alisson Becker. The votes are flying in. There's about 30 odd seconds left for that. Currently on 23 votes. 7 and 8 currently leading. So it's what you want from Alisson Becker, as I said before. A couple of brief moments where he was off his line, but relatively quiet game for him. Pretty sound. 8 does seem to be leading. Alisson gets an 8 out of 10. Possibly shout for man of the match with Alisson Becker as well. Let me know your thoughts as well in the comments. Robertson is now live. If you want to vote for Robertson, put vote. Exclamation mark, vote, space, and then the number. I will get that right at some point today. Again, I put a tweet out just after the game from Man of the Match shouts, and loads of people did say Andrew Robertson. Very energetic, relentless, as we come to expect from him. The goal, I think you can give some credit to Robertson as well. The fact that he makes that overlap for Mane, allows Mane to kind of twist it in. He makes Kyle Walker question what he's doing. So Kyle Walker goes to go out to Robertson, and then Mane with his quick thinking tucks inside. So he gets a bit of credit for that. Apart from that, his defensive duties, he's up against a very good Manchester City side. As I mentioned for Alisson, it was very intense. So you have to remember with Robertson, amazing going forward. We said this a couple of times. He seems to be in 2 places at once. So to be able to do his defensive duties, to be able to get forward and attack and provide some, some overlapping runs, even at times underlapping runs for Sadio Mane, I thought he was very good. Robertson also gets an 8 out of 10. Okay, so 8s for them two so far. Let me know your thoughts in the comments out of them two, who you thought was better. Joe Gomez is now live. I will get this right. So Joe Gomez, exclamation mark, vote, a space, and then the number for Joe Gomez. Relatively sound for me. City are a very difficult side. There's always been question marks. I thought it was very handy, the fact that Joel Matip was next to him. There wasn't as much responsibility on Joe Gomez as it has been when he's been with a Reece Williams or a Nat Phillips, which allows him to kind of concentrate on his own game. I don't think he was at fault for the goal. I don't think it was anything to do with it, to be perfectly honest. Giving Kevin De Bruyne bags of space, and it was Trent that was covering Jesus at that point. You've got to be 100% against Manchester City. Obviously, the penalty, which I think we were just talking about on Sky Sports, I think is extremely harsh. We saw one early today with Wolves and Leicester. You're going to give that one. We want consistency, but I prefer consistency to be right, if I'm being perfectly honest. We hit him on the elbow there. Gomez has got a 7 out of 10. You've got to be careful. I don't think it's his fault. I think it's extremely harsh on Joe Gomez. I think he said himself afterwards, what's he supposed to do at that point? We'll move on to Joel Matip. Let me check. Matip is live. Get your votes in for Joel Matip. Really impressed with Joel Matip again. Someone else who got shouted man of the match on Twitter. for someone who's not rusty, but I thought, I expected him to play 10, 15 minutes against Atalanta in midweek, considering we were so far ahead in that game, just to get off a bit of rustiness, off his shoulders. But dominant in the air, I thought he was authoritative. He's putting himself on the line, some good tackles. He obviously picks up a booking, which was, if we're being completely honest, it was a booking. The only criticism of Joel Matip that I would have was some of his passing. I think at one point he passed to Pep Guardiola on the sidelines. Someone needs to tell him that he doesn't play football anymore. But again, that's with rustiness. That's the conditions were tough. It was wet, it was raining out there today. But I was very impressed with Joel Matip on the whole. Possibly my man of the match. I will do my written player ratings as usual at some point this evening. Me and Paul are going to do an instant match. Matip gets an 8 as well. Some high scores. Some very happy people. Put Matip there a bit lower. And then I was going to move on to Trent is live. Get your votes in for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Notes for Trent. Unlucky for the goal. It was very hard lines for a lot of the football game today, whether that was Liverpool going forward or going back. Jesus, whether he meant it or not, gets the better of Trent Alexander-Arnold in that particular moment. He'll be very disappointed with that. And of course, the injury towards the end, that's not a good sign. But again, going forward, he was doing his duties. I think he gives us that little bit of creativity that we all know that he can do. But equally, he had to deal with Raheem Sterling as well. We thought, particularly the first half, Raheem Sterling, I thought he was on it. Man City looked to kind of get him on the ball. He was driving forward, and obviously Trent does have to do his defensive duties, which there have been loads of question marks on. He has a free kick, which just turns out to be a bit of a sighter, but I thought the way that they worked that, he shifted well to the right. Trent gets a 7 as well, but we didn't create too much besides that. Who are we going for next? We shall go for Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson is live. Get your votes in for Jordan Henderson. So it's exclamation mark, vote, space, and then a number for Jordan Henderson. Very difficult for Jordan Henderson, Gini Van Alden. I'll kind of speak about them both roughly at the same time. The two in midfield, I thought Henderson was dominant, energetic, relentless as you want to, going forward and going backwards, providing defensive cover for the fullbacks when they did get forward, but also in that press going forward. First half, first hour maybe, but then we kind of dropped off and Liverpool sat back. But those moments where Liverpool were piling the pressure on, it was Jordan Henderson obviously barking orders and him setting the tone for quite a lot of that. Some good passing, but besides that, we dipped off as the whole team did. But the last 10, 15, 20 minutes, it kind of got a bit boring. But Jordan Henderson, it looks like, is also getting an 8 out of 10. Some relatively high scores, considering we draw 1-1. I was expecting everyone's heads to fall off, but you're all being relatively nice. This is quite interesting. It's a tie between 8 and 9. Should we give him 8.5? Can we do? Oh, I'll give him 8.5. I don't know what Chris normally does for that, but he gets an 8.5. We'll move on to Gini Van Alden. A bit of a mixed response for Gini Van Alden on Twitter. Gini Van Alden is live, to get your votes in for that now. Thank you, Si. Some really good moments, some moments, particularly in the first half, where he's driving forward with the ball, and it just reminded me as I was watching it, that's what he does for Holland, that's what we all want Gini Van Alden to do. But of course, because the game was so intense, it was so end-to-end, again, he has to track back, he has to do his defensive duties. We saw his strengths, literally, of shielding the ball, just protecting the ball, shoving someone off, and, retaining possession for Liverpool, which is what we like to go and see. There was a moment which I think is stuck in people's minds where the ball kind of got stuck underneath his feet and he lost it, which led to a Man City chance. Whether he's at fault for giving Kevin De Bruyne so much space, I don't think he's directly his fault. Kevin De Bruyne was picking up pockets of space in front of our back four, whether it's a lack of communication, whether Gini should be switched onto that, I don't know. But for me, I think he had a relatively good game. As I said, if I do my ratings, I'd probably give him an 8 out of 10. And the amount of football that he's played as well, I think towards the end he lost the ball again. I don't think he should have been played in for that ball towards the end, but he showed signs of tiredness. It was just kind of stretching too much. 8 wins. 8 wins over 6 is another high score. I'm quite enjoying this. Right, someone who probably won't get an 8 out of 10. You can tell me it's Roberto Firmino. I'm just waiting. Firmino is live. I'm one of Bobby's biggest fans. I think there's only so many times that you can say the effort and the energy that he puts in, which again he did do today. It just seems to be such hard lines for him, whether he's trying too hard, whether it's confidence, whether it could be anything with Firmino, but it just doesn't seem to be coming off for him at the minute. There's a couple of opportunities, particularly even in the first 4 or 5 minutes where he's getting in behind, he's picking up the right positions. But again, it's that first touch, those decision makings, it just doesn't seem to be clicking for him at the moment. He obviously gets subbed off as well. A slightly different role for him, a bit deeper, so he has to do the tracking back and helping out the midfield because we were short in numbers there as well. He needs a rest, in my opinion. I know he got one in midweek and he played, 20, 25 minutes in midweek, but I think he needs a prolonged rest. He's played a hell of a lot of football. Again, a difficult game for him to come into. Some lower scores coming in for Bobby. Tie between 6 and 7, so I think that's only fair that I give him a 6.5, as I did for Jordan Henderson. Should we move on to Diogo Jota? Is he live? Diogo Jota is live. A slightly different role for Diogo Jota today. I think we kind of all wanted that Atalanta game, or he's coming up on playing on the left-hand side, getting behind the lines, playing on the last man, creating stuff. But again, he just seems to be on that right-hand side, between Salah and Trent at times. Again, just being a body, being a bit more defensive work. I've written down sacrifice on my notes, so I think that's what he did. He was given a role to go and do. I think when we all first saw the lineup, I mean, I've not even changed it. I think that's what we thought it was going to be. That would be the ideal situation, but he seemed to be a bit more down the side and kind of protecting that flank. Obviously, Man City are very dangerous. You'd like to get forward, so you need that. Particularly when you've got a two of Gini and Henderson, you need someone to go and do that. He's been called a pressing monster, and I think that's what he did in that role today. He's moved slightly around in the second half, but nothing that we've seen over recent weeks. Obviously, he scored a hat-trick in midweek, which is what you do want to go and see, but he didn't do that today. Jota gets a 7. Not bad. Depending on how you rate a 7, to be honest. Sadio Mane next. Sadio Mane is live. Get your votes in for Sadio Mane. I thought Sadio was... I thought he was superb, actually, if I'm being honest. It's just that energy and drive, and what we saw from him at the beginning of last season, we've seen it in spells this season, is someone who wants the ball, someone who wants to make something happen. That's what you get from Sadio, but he's standing someone up and going past them. He's winning balls. Obviously, he wins the penalty because he's getting himself in the right positions. As I said before with Robertson, Mane has that speed process in his head, which is quicker than I can talk, of just to shift it to the right-hand side and catch Kyle Walker out within split seconds and win that. He won multiple free kicks high up the pitch. Some of it just didn't go for him and some that didn't. But again, I thought he was unlucky because Man City saw him as a threat. They saw him as someone that they needed to mark out the game. And you see, and again, he's still providing that energy with the final 10, 15 minutes of the game to go. But he's got 3-4 players around him because that's what Man City have to do to try and nullify him and keep him out of the game. But he still shows that drive, that passion, determination. And he gets an 8 out of 10. I'm all right with that. He didn't obviously play there. And finally, Mo Salah, before we get to the substitutes. I'll just come to this side. Yeah, scores the penalty, takes it very well. There seems to be this thing where people are very confident of Mo Salah taking penalties. I'm fine with it. But again, he found it very difficult, particularly in the second half. I think there was a massive difference between our midfield and our front line, where we could kind of be hoofing hopeful balls up, and I think Manchester City were just cutting them out, which didn't allow him to play his usual games. He was rarely one-on-one with someone. I think the first 10-15 minutes we had a couple of chances to get ahead in the game, but besides that he was relatively quiet. And again, like Sadio Mane, just outnumbered, and maybe a bit of tired leg to get kicking in as well. Defensive work, again, he has to come back and do his duties, which is what Klopp said. We're playing, but wasn't like that again, but front four, essentially. Get back, do your defensive work, help out Trent, help out Robbo, help out Gini and Henderson. And it was just a very intense game, which is pretty difficult for everyone. He gets an 8. High scores. I take it we're all very happy with the results. Right, substitutes before we move on. Origi didn't play. Shaqiri did. Sorry, lads, I'm just going to have to throw you on the floor. Jones and Adrian obviously didn't play. Shall we start with Xherdan Shaqiri? Let me know your thoughts on Shaqiri in the comments below. He is live. Sound. Again, I think he's picked up a different position to what we're usually seeing him. I'm going to compare it to the game last weekend, where I think he's a bit more further forward. He's got that link-up play with Jota, which we didn't see today because I think they were just too far apart by the time that he came on. And we're looking for that pass. We know he's got that. He's got credit in the bank now. He's available a lot more. I think he excites people. And it's just that's what we needed, because City were unusually so defensive and so compacted. You know, when Liverpool were on the attack, they were 2 banks of 4, they were getting back, and they were relatively narrow, but you're looking for Shaqiri to have that killer pass, that killer instinct. 1 or 2, I think he got lucky with one where I think he did a 1-2 with a City defender, bobbled, and then obviously he lost the ball. But fine, I don't normally give ratings to people that play short amount of minutes, but looks like he's on for a 7 early doors. Apart from that, not too 5, he gets a 7. And then finally, Jimmy Milner coming on at right back. He is live. Get your votes in for him. He's always going to get compared to Trent when he plays right back, and possibly criticised for the things that Trent doesn't do, but you can't expect that from James Milner. I thought he got in some really good positions at times. 10-15 minutes when we're looking for a goal towards the end, but he just seemed to stop, check his run, and then cut back. And I think there was a couple of opportunities where Sadio was free on the far side, and that's where you're thinking in your head, Trent's whipping that ball on the other side. That's not Milner's job. I think he looked to calm things down, settle things down. 1-1 is a good result at the Etihad, which is obviously reflected in some of the scores that you're giving people, that we can be happy with this. I think there's frustration that we didn't win the game, but obviously we could have lost because they had a penalty, which they missed. But yeah, Milner's good. That's fine. Hopefully Trent's okay. We won't need him at right back too much, because obviously we prefer him in his midfield position. It looks like Milner's on for a 10. Is that right, Si? Milner gets a 10 just for being Jimmy Milner. Why not? Anyway, those are your player ratings as Liverpool drew 1-1 with Manchester City. Very shortly, me and Paul will be back with an instant match reaction. If you want my player ratings in a written form, they will be on the website at some point tonight. And of course, we have loads of post-match reaction tomorrow with the final word show. Keep your thoughts coming, keep your comments coming. If you disagree with any of the ratings that you've given, not me, you've given these, put them in the comments below, and we will be back very soon.